Racist cops attack jogging black woman SHS. A Navy SEAL in the crisp morning air of San Diego, Ebony E.J. Johnson, laced up her running shoes for what she believed would be a routine jog through the quiet streets. The rising sun painted the sky a gentle orange, and her rhythmic footsteps matched her steady breath. Unbeknownst to her, this day would unleash a cascade of shocking events that would reveal the insidious spectre of racism in the very individuals sworn to protect and serve. But EJ was no ordinary jogger. She was a highly trained United States Navy SEAL, about to confront a test of strength and courage unlike any she had faced before. The dawn sky stretched over San Diego, painting soft indigo clouds with the first gold rays of sun. Ebony E.J. Johnson inhaled the salty air wafting in from the Pacific Ocean. At 29 years old, E.J. was used to early mornings. Her body and mind had been shaped by countless dawn workouts during her basic underwater demolition SEAL Bud S training. Pulling a black hoodie over her braided hair, EJ tied her bright red running shoes and set out from her modest apartment near the Mission Beach area. The plan was simple: a 5-mile run followed by a quick strength routine, then off to Naval Amphibious Base Coronado to report for duty. The streets were silent except for the distant roar of the surf. Cool, fresh air greeted EJ's face, and she smiled briefly, finding solace in her solitary run. This was how she recalibrated after the pressures of her role as one of the Navy's most elite operators. Though her status as a SEAL was something she kept low profile, rare as it was for a woman, especially a black woman, to earn the trident, EJ had never considered her achievements a license to boast. Her father had taught her humility: walk quietly, but keep your sword sharp. Partway through her route, as EJ crossed into a predominantly upscale neighborhood, she noticed an unmarked white sedan cruising slowly behind her. Initially, she thought nothing of it. Maybe the driver was just lost. Yet the car's engine revved. Then came an abrupt squeal of tires. Moments later, the vehicle overtook her, blocking the sidewalk. 2 uniformed police officers stepped out. Their black and white patrol car was nowhere in sight. This was a plain vehicle with tinted windows. Officer Derek Cole, a tall man with a sharp gaze, approached with a hand on his holster. His partner, Officer Lucas Price, hung back, crossing his arms as though spoiling for trouble. EJ instinctively slowed her stride. Her muscles tensed. Something in their posture made the hair on the back of her neck prickle. "You fit a description," Cole said gruffly. "There's been a series of break-ins around here. Mind showing some ID?" EJ's heart pounded. She forced her voice to remain calm. "Officer, I'm just jogging. I don't carry my wallet when I run, but I can give you my name." Cole's eyes narrowed. "That won't cut it." EJ took a deep breath. "May I ask what break-ins have to do with someone out jogging in broad daylight?" At that, Officer Price piped up, malice thinly veiled. "We're not here to answer your questions. We said you fit a description. And last I checked, resisting the police's instructions is a crime." A sense of dread welled in EJ's gut. She'd encountered suspicious looks while out jogging before, but never anything this hostile. Yet she remembered her father's advice and kept her bearing. "Remain respectful, keep your composure," she repeated. "I'm Ebony Johnson. I can show you proof of who I am once we reach my apartment or my car." Cole scoffed. "That's not how this works, sweetheart." EJ felt her chest tighten. She scanned the deserted street, hoping someone would witness the escalation. The idea that these officers had singled her out solely because of the color of her skin gnawed at her. She'd worked her entire life to protect her country, yet here she was, cornered by those who wore the same uniform of American duty and service. "All right," she said slowly. "What do you need from me? I can give you my phone number or the number to my commanding officer." At the Naval Amphibious Base Coronado. I'm an active duty service member. Officer Price's eyebrows shot up in mock amusement. You? Navy? Don't make me laugh. EJ swallowed the hot anger stirring in her. She understood that challenging them would only stoke their aggression, but there was only so much disrespect she could endure. I'm telling you the truth. Funny, Cole said, stepping closer. You just happened to leave your military ID at home, right? The tension was palpable now. EJ could sense that these men were past the point of reason. This was no casual questioning. It was harassment. No matter what she said, they would twist it. Her best hope was to stay calm, survive the encounter, and escalate it through proper channels later. Moments stretched like hours. Time felt slow, each second weighed with the threat of violence. Cole sniffed. Get on your knees. Hands behind your head. EJ's stomach dropped. Is that really necessary, officer? Price, now stepping forward, reached for his baton. Don't ask questions. Down. Now, inside, a battle raged. Every cell in EJ's body told her to resist. She was a SEAL trained to protect herself, to react instantly when threatened. Yet the uniform and badge they wore held power that overshadowed her training in this context. She dropped to her knees, lacing her fingers behind her head. Cole circled her like a predator. You know, these break-ins are a big deal around here. Folks don't take kindly to strangers roaming through their property. EJ clenched her jaw. I am not a stranger. I live less than 2 miles from here. That retort earned her a swift kick to the side of her ribs from Officer Price. Pain exploded across her abdomen. Instinctively, she hunched over, but she forced herself not to retaliate. Anger and indignation flooded her senses, yet she knew one wrong move could end her life. Shut your mouth, Price snarled. We ask the questions. Unbeknownst to all three, a neighbor peered from behind half-drawn curtains in a nearby house. The neighbor, an elderly woman named Martha Templeton, too fearful to step outside, had dialed 911. She could see the confrontation unfolding in the middle of the quiet street. As the phone rang, Martha's voice trembled. Please, send help. I think the police are assaulting a woman outside my house. When the dispatcher asked for more details, Martha explained the unmarked car, the uniformed men who had pinned the woman to the sidewalk. Her voice cracked. Just hurry, something's very wrong. Cole yanked EJ's arms behind her back, tightening metal handcuffs around her wrists until they cut into her skin. She breathed through the pain, focusing on remaining calm. Her mind drifted to her mother's voice. They'll provoke you, Ebony. Don't give them an excuse. Officer Price's baton tapped EJ's shoulder. Tough day, huh? He sneered. Should have thought twice before prowling around. When Cole reached into EJ's hoodie pocket, her heart surged. If they found her phone, maybe they'd see her name, maybe sense that something wasn't right. But he flung her phone to the asphalt instead, shattering its screen. Then he grabbed her dog tags hanging beneath her hoodie. What's this? Cole asked, momentarily confused. Dog tags were a physical testament to her service. In that instant, EJ twisted, trying to shift her body in a safe angle. She intended no aggression, simply an attempt to relieve the pressure on her pinned arms. The motion, however, startled Price, who reflexively slammed her to the ground. The side of EJ's face scraped against the rough pavement, drawing blood. Her ears rang. Stop resisting. Price roared. I'm not resisting, she gasped, spitting out grit and blood. For a moment, EJ's mind flashed back to her time in SEAL survival, evasion, resistance, escape training, recalling the techniques used to maintain mental clarity under interrogation. She tried to sink into that mental discipline, chanting to herself, survive this, survive this, survive this. She wouldn't fight back. These men had already proven how quickly they'd escalate. If they saw even a hint of her ability, they might spin it into a justification to shoot. She needed an ally, someone who could intervene without prejudice. A patrol car, this time an official black and white, came speeding around the corner, sirens off but lights flashing. The driver, Officer Samantha Cabrera, skidded to a stop and jumped out, her hand on her sidearm. She froze at the sight. Two officers in plain clothes, pinning a bleeding, handcuffed black woman to the ground. "What's going on?" Cabrera demanded, her voice crackling with shock. Price scowled. Cole stood upright, chest puffing. "We're in the middle of an arrest, Cabrera. Go mind your own beat." Cabrera's eyes flicked to EJ, noticing the dog tags and the now smashed phone, as well as the violent manner of her arrest. She felt a deep wave of dread. Something about this screamed out of protocol. "I got a call about officers assaulting a civilian," Cabrera said carefully. "I'm responding to that call." Cole sneered. "We said we're handling it." Cabrera sensed the tension. She didn't see any sign of a weapon near the victim. "Look," she said, stepping forward, "we have protocols. Let's at least read her rights. Get an ID properly." Price barked. "We already tried, and she wouldn't cooperate." But Cabrera stepped around them, crouched carefully by EJ, and lowered her voice. "Ma'am, are you okay? Can you tell me your name?" EJ looked up through half-blurred vision. "Ebony Johnson," she said, her voice trembling with equal parts pain and fury. "I'm stationed at Naval Amphibious Base Coronado." Cabrera's eyebrows shot up. She glanced at the dog tags. She'd grown up in a military family herself and knew authenticity when she saw it. "Are you active duty, Miss Johnson?" "Yes." EJ forced the word through clenched teeth. She was trying to remain stoic, but her ribs screamed in pain. Cabrera rose to face Cole and Price. "She's active duty, Navy. That means she has a chain of command, and you've just assaulted a member of the USAR MED forces." Cole shrugged dismissively. "We have reason to believe she's involved in break-ins." Cabrera tried to ignore the fury rising in her. "And what's your probable cause?" Price muttered something under his breath. Cabrera turned back to EJ, gently helping her to sit up. Blood trickled from EJ's temple. "Let's get her to the hospital, or at least get medical on the way." Cole's expression hardened. "No hospital until I get a statement down at the station." At that moment, a crowd began to gather, neighbors, awakened by the shouting and the arrival of the squad car. Martha Templeton stood among them, twisting her hands in worry. She recognized EJ from seeing her jog in the area before. Though they'd never spoken, Martha felt compelled to speak up. "Officers, she's just a jogger. She passes by at least 3 times a week. She's never caused any trouble." Price glared at her. "Ma'am, step back, or we'll arrest you for interference." Cabrera took a firm stance. "That's enough. This situation is already out of control." Cole's phone buzzed. He scoffed, showing Price the screen. A faint whisper of fear played on his partner's face. Something was changing. Perhaps the higher-ups had caught wind of the incident. Cabrera suspected a call from dispatch, or maybe even the precinct captain. The rumor mill in the department would soon be ablaze. Another squad car arrived. Out stepped Sergeant Hector Reese, looking every bit the seasoned officer, with lines of experience carved into his face. He took one look at EJ, battered and handcuffed, and a flash of horror crossed his features. "Let's get those cuffs off," Sergeant Reese demanded. Price began to protest, but Reese silenced him with a slicing gesture. Now, reluctantly, Price removed the handcuffs. EJ exhaled in relief, feeling the blood rush back into her wrists. She glanced up at Reese, who tried to remain stern, but she caught a glimpse of something akin to remorse flicker in his eyes. Reese motioned to Cabrera. "Take her statement and get her medical attention." A hush fell over the small crowd. Cole and Price stiffened. Without another word, Reese began escorting them to the side, possibly for a private, heated conversation. Though EJ protested, claiming she was fine, Cabrera insisted on calling an ambulance. When it arrived, EJ was carefully lifted onto a gurney. The paramedics checked her vitals. her bruised ribs, her bleeding temple. They recommended immediate transport to a hospital for further evaluation. Cameras from phones were now rolling from bystanders' hands, capturing every angle. EJ felt conflicted. She worried about drawing attention to her identity as a SEAL, yet the numbness creeping into her body demanded she not push her luck. She needed care and to stay alive to fight another day. At Sharp Memorial Hospital, the fluorescent lights buzzed overhead in the ER. EJ lay on a gurney, forced to recount her story yet again to a concerned nurse. Meanwhile, Cabrera waited in the corridor, scribbling notes on a small pad. Occasionally, she'd glance up at EJ, meeting her eyes with a sympathetic nod. A short while later, the door swung open, revealing a tall, imposing figure in navy dress blues, Lieutenant Commander Jason Clark, EJ's commanding officer from Naval Special Warfare Group. Cabrera greeted him with a respectful nod. Clark wasted no time in stepping up to EJ's bedside. "Petty Officer Johnson," he said, voice laced with concern. "I came as soon as I heard. Are you all right?" EJ tried to smile, but winced at the pain in her ribs. "Bruised and battered, sir, but I'll manage." Cabrera explained to Clark what she had witnessed. Every detail chipped away at the CO's calm demeanor, his jaw clenching, eyes narrowing. "This is unacceptable," Clark said, his voice almost shaking. "I've already reached out to NCIS. They're going to investigate this. You have my word." EJ exhaled. A shred of relief seeped in. The Navy would not let this slide. Just as Clark was about to leave, an NCIS agent arrived, a woman named Anna Delgado. She introduced herself and explained that the Department of Defense took allegations of violence against active duty personnel very seriously. "We'll begin by obtaining all the camera footage from witnesses, as well as from Officer Cabrera's dashcam," Delgado said firmly. EJ's heart fluttered with cautious hope. Maybe justice would be swift. Maybe she could finally be treated like the proud service member she was. Yet, deep down, she feared how far certain individuals in the police department might go to protect their own. The next day, from her hospital bed, EJ flipped through local news channels. Her face was blurred, but the headlines were uncomfortably close to her reality. Alleged police brutality in Mission Beach, woman hospitalized. She muted the television, not wanting to relive the trauma. Meanwhile, her phone, which she'd replaced, was buzzing with messages from concerned fellow SEALs, old friends, even extended family. News traveled fast. Lieutenant Commander Clark returned that afternoon. His usually stoic expression was lined with anger. "Cole and Price are doubling down on their claims that you matched the suspect's description for the robberies. They say you resisted, threatened them, tried to grab one of their guns." EJ's jaw tightened. "That's a lie," Clark nodded. "We know, but they're painting you as an aggressor. They're trying to smear your name, Ebony." She sighed, recalling all the times she'd fought tooth and nail just to be seen as equal in the Navy. And now, on home soil, she faced a different battle altogether. "What about the video from Cabrera's dashcam?" she asked. Clark's lips pursed. "It's partially obstructed. She arrived after the initial confrontation. It helps, but it doesn't show the start. However, we do have eyewitness testimonies, including that neighbor who called 911. EJ managed a small nod. "That's something." At the San Diego Police Department, the tension was thick. The police chief, Marion Hess, a middle-aged woman with a reputation for no-nonsense leadership, paced her office. Sergeant Reese stood before her, explaining the situation. "Cole and Price are claiming they did everything by the book," Reese said, "but the civilian witnesses and Officer Cabrera say otherwise." Chief Hess pinched the bridge of her nose. "We can't afford a scandal, especially not with the Department of Defense involved. If these officers are guilty, they're going to pay. But if they're innocent, I need proof. Understand?" Reese nodded, though doubt crept into his voice. Yes, Chief. Outside the chief's office, Cole and Price exchanged glances that seethed with barely concealed anger. They'd never imagined a simple stop, and Frisk would spiral into an NCIS-level controversy. The pair whispered furiously, each trying to salvage their version of events. Meanwhile, NCIS agent Delgado dug into the backgrounds of officers Cole and Price. She discovered multiple complaints of excessive force filed against both. Most were dismissed or quietly settled out of court. Delgado jotted each case down, building a picture of men who had a history of overreach. She also uncovered that Ebony E.J. Johnson was more than just a SEAL. She had earned commendations for valor in a classified mission overseas. Confidential files indicated she had been instrumental in saving a high-value hostage during an operation in the Middle East. Delgado found no red flags in EJ's record. Instead, she found a model service member. "This is big," Delgado muttered to herself, eyes scanning the data. If the public discovered a war hero had been brutalized by local police simply for jogging in the wrong neighborhood, the fallout could be seismic. Word soon reached EJ's mother, Dr. Althea Johnson, a tenured professor of history at Howard University and a well-respected civil rights advocate. Within hours, she was on a flight to San Diego. When she arrived at the hospital, tears filled her eyes as she saw her daughter's bruised face. "Oh, Ebony," she whispered, pressing a gentle kiss to her forehead. "I'm so sorry this happened to you." EJ tried to comfort her mother. "I'll be fine, Mama. I faced worse in training." But Althea's voice turned icy with resolve. "You shouldn't have to face this at all. Don't they realize you risk your life for this country?" EJ sighed. "Some see only skin color, Mama." Althea's lips thinned. "I'll be calling some people, lawyers, colleagues. The world needs to know you're not some random suspect." A pang of anxiety stabbed EJ's chest. She wanted justice, but also dreaded the media circus that might follow. Would her entire career become overshadowed by this? Still, her mother's unwavering support gave her the strength to press on. Within days, the story caught national attention. NBC7 San Diego ran a segment featuring an interview with Martha Templeton, her voice trembling as she described what she saw. Footage from cell phones circulated across social media, depicting EJ pinned to the ground, bloodied. Though her identity remained partially protected, rumors flourished that she was a Navy SEAL. Questions exploded online. Is the victim actually a SEAL? Police brutality against active duty soldier, systemic racism in law enforcement. Twitter, Instagram and Facebook were ablaze with hashtags like #JusticeForEdge and #RacistCopsExposed. Cole and Price, feeling the heat, had hired private attorneys. The attorneys went on local news, asserting their clients had probable cause, that EJ had acted highly aggressive and physically threatening. They pointed to her advanced training as evidence that she was dangerous. Sergeant Reese tried to stay neutral, but inside he was torn. He'd spent years believing in the integrity of the badge. Yet seeing EJ battered, combined with the evidence of the officer's past misconduct, made him question where the truth truly lay. The faint memories of hearing about Cole's racially charged remarks in the locker room weighed heavily on him. Lieutenant Commander Clark and Agent Delgado held a press conference outside Naval Base Coronado. Cameras flashed as reporters shouted questions. Clark, stern-faced in his crisp uniform, spoke, "We will not stand idle when a service member under our command is harmed without just cause. We support the ongoing investigation by NCIS and local authorities, and we demand transparency and accountability." EJ watched the press conference from her hospital TV. A soft wave of gratitude washed over her. She wasn't alone in this fight. Although physically healing, EJ found herself plagued by nightmares. She dreamt of that initial moment being pinned, humiliated, powerless. It clashed violently with her self-image as a strong operator capable of handling any threat. In quiet moments she felt shame, an irrational sense that she should have been able to defend herself. Her fellow SEAL team members visited her, bringing banter and encouragement. Still, behind their jokes, she sensed their simmering outrage. They knew what she was capable of, yet if she had fought back, the story might have ended with gunfire. The tragedy of that truth weighed heavily on them all. A week after the incident, with evidence mounting, Chief Hess had no choice but to place Cole and Price on unpaid administrative leave pending further investigation. The pair lashed out, calling it a politically motivated stunt. Tensions rose within the police force as lines were drawn. Some officers believed Cole and Price's version, others felt they had finally stepped over a line that couldn't be defended. Late one evening, EJ received a call from a restricted number. On the other end was a shaken voice that identified himself only as Officer T. He claimed to have evidence body cam footage that Cole and Price had tried to delete from the system. "What do you mean?" EJ asked, pressing the phone closer to her ear. "Footage from an earlier stop they made that day. They were joking about running into some thug to clear up the robberies. I overheard them. They used racial slurs." Officer T spoke quickly, as though frightened someone might trace the call. EJ's heart pounded. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because it's wrong," he whispered. I just can't stand by and let them get away with it again." With that, the line went dead. EJ stared at the phone, her mind racing. This could be the proof needed to fully expose Cole and Price's intentions. While Delgado worked on verifying the tip, she discovered that the bodycam footage was indeed flagged for deletion. With its assistance, she managed to recover partial audio. It captured a snippet of conversation, Cole's voice, explicit in its racism, naming his desire to teach a lesson to these people prowling the neighborhood. Delgado felt her stomach churn. This was no misunderstanding or random check. This was a premeditated tactic. She forwarded the file to the district attorney's office immediately. On a bright morning, 2 weeks after EJ's assault, agents from NCIS and the Internal Affairs Division arrived at the homes of Derek Cole and Lucas Price with arrest warrants. The media captured footage of Cole scowling as he was led away in handcuffs. Price tried to hide his face from cameras. Charges included assault, falsification of police reports, and civil rights violations under color of law. In the police station, some watched silently, uncertain how to reconcile a brotherhood in uniform with glaring evidence of racism. Others felt relief that accountability had finally come. By then, EJ had been discharged from the hospital, still sore but slowly returning to her normal routine. Seeing Cole and Price in handcuffs on the news triggered a tumult of emotions: satisfaction, relief, lingering rage, and even sadness for a system that enabled such men to wield power. She visited the station in civilian clothes this time, accompanied by Lieutenant Commander Clark and Agent Delgado. She provided a sworn statement for the district attorney. The presence of her commanding officer and an NCIS agent underscored the gravity of the situation. EJ's father, a retired Marine Master Gunnery Sergeant, had flown in just days earlier. Charles Johnson was a large, stoic man who rarely showed emotion. But upon seeing EJ in bandages, tears welled in his eyes. He gathered his daughter into a gentle hug. "I'm sorry I couldn't protect you," he murmured. She squeezed his hand. "You taught me how to protect myself, but sometimes the real battles are ones we fight in court, not on the battlefield." Charles nodded, his jaw set with quiet determination. "I taught you to stand tall. You're doing that, Ebony. I'm proud of you." Public support for EJ grew stronger. Activists organized marches, demanding police reform. Some city officials proposed new training programs to address bias within the department. Meanwhile, national news outlets interviewed EJ's mother, Dr. Althea Johnson, who eloquently connected the dots between historical racism and modern-day policing issues. EJ herself remained mostly off-camera, focusing on her healing and cooperating with the legal process. However, she released a brief statement: "My aim is not to tarnish the good officers who serve honorably, but to hold accountable those who abuse their authority. No American should fear for their life while jogging in their own neighborhood, least of all someone sworn to defend this country." The trial of Cole and Price became a spectacle. The recovered bodycam audio was the prosecution's smoking gun, revealing blatant racial bias and planned intimidation. Officer Cabrera testified, describing the scene she found upon arrival. Neighboring witnesses recounted EJ's pleas, her compliance. Photographs of EJ's injuries, along with paramedic reports, painted a damning picture. Cole's and Price's attorneys attempted to portray EJ as a potential threat, highlighting her SEAL training. They argued that her advanced combat skills could have led the officers to fear for their safety, but video evidence and eyewitness accounts contradicted their claims of aggression on EJ's part. In the end, the jury found both Cole and Price guilty of multiple charges, including assault under color of authority. The judge, a former Navy JAG officer named Marcia Sullivan, delivered a stinging rebuke. "As those entrusted with power, you violated the public trust and inflicted harm on a dedicated service member whose very mission is to protect our nation. Your actions were motivated by prejudice, not by legitimate law enforcement concerns." She sentenced them to significant prison terms and fines. Collective relief rippled through the community. In the courtroom gallery, EJ squeezed her mother's hand, tears brimming at the corners of her eyes. Outside the courthouse, EJ was greeted by fellow SEALs and local supporters. The tension of the past weeks seemed to lift like a heavy fog. While her injuries would take time to fully heal, the emotional burden began to ease. Officer Cabrera, standing off to the side, locked eyes with EJ. They approached each other. Cabrera offered a soft smile. "I'm sorry this happened. I just wanted to do the right thing." EJ nodded. "You did. Thank you." The San Diego Police Department, under intense scrutiny, initiated sweeping reforms, including mandatory body cams that couldn't be manually disabled, anti-bias training, and closer collaboration with community leaders. Chief Hess acknowledged the department's faults and pledged transparency. Though many in the community remained skeptical, the conviction of Cole and Price sent a powerful message. Accountability was possible. EJ hoped that future joggers, black or otherwise, wouldn't have to live in fear. Once her medical clearance was finalized, EJ returned to Naval Special Warfare Group for a modest ceremony, recognizing her courage both in her service and her stand for justice. Lieutenant Commander Clark placed a challenge coin in her hand, a silent acknowledgement of the respect the entire unit felt for her. She gazed upon her teammates, men and women who viewed her as an equal, as she'd always wanted to be seen. Their applause echoed through the training bay, a triumphant salute not just to her personal bravery, but to the principle that every SEAL has each other's back, no matter the threat. Physical therapy exercises helped EJ strengthen her bruised ribs. For her scraped temple, the doctors assured her the scar would fade in time. Mentally, she relied on the coping mechanism she'd honed in SERE training, along with the unwavering support of her parents, friends, and fellow SEALs. She also sought therapy, recognizing that trauma could manifest in unpredictable ways. In talking to a counselor at the base, she allowed herself to process the roller coaster of fear, anger, and humiliation. Gradually, she reclaimed her confidence step by step. A local journalist requested an exclusive interview to delve deeper into EJ's story. At first, she hesitated, wary of the spotlight. But with her CO's encouragement, she agreed, hoping her experience might help others facing similar injustices. In the interview, EJ spoke candidly about her background, her dreams, and the adversity she overcame to become a SEAL. She described the horrifying morning she was assaulted, the pain of realizing that to some, her uniform and achievements didn't matter. She also spoke of her gratitude for the community members and honest officers who stood by her. The interview aired on local stations, garnering widespread praise. EJ received letters of support from across the country, veterans, police officers, and everyday citizens who found hope and solidarity in her story. At a community forum on police reform, EJ sat beside Althea Johnson, Officer Cabrera, Agent Delgado, and civil rights activists. They fielded questions from residents on how to improve relations between law enforcement and communities of color. Each panelist brought a unique perspective. Cabrera on the realities of police work, Delgado on investigative procedure, EJ on the intersections of race and military service, and Althea on the historical context of institutional racism. This open dialogue, while sometimes tense, marked a step toward bridging divides. EJ took heart in seeing robust engagement from local youth, especially young black girls who saw in her a reflection of their own potential. A twist in the saga emerged when a local hardware store owner came forward, revealing that EJ had actually helped him months prior when he was being harassed by a group of vandals. She never told anyone, not even her teammates. The store owner recognized EJ's face in the news and shared the story, testifying to her bravery and willingness to help. This anecdote spread, undermining any lingering doubt about EJ's character. Behind bars, Cole and Price were shunned by many fellow inmates, some of whom had experienced racial profiling. Rumors circulated that they faced constant threats, ironically seeking protective custody. Their attorneys tried to appeal, but the evidence was too overwhelming. The words of that bodycam audio, laden with hate, echoed in every hearing. In a twist of karma, Cole learned that a man EJ had saved in a hostage crisis overseas was related to a corrections officer at the same facility. That corrections officer went out of his way to tell Cole exactly who Ebony Johnson was: a war hero, a protector of American lives. Cole's shoulders sank with the weight of his own wrongdoing. Late one afternoon, EJ returned to the place where it all began, the quiet street in the upscale neighborhood. She stood at the very spot where she'd been forced to her knees. A swirl of memories threatened to overwhelm her. Fear, pain, shame, anger. But now she also felt pride in the justice achieved and the reforms sparked by her ordeal. As she jogged from that spot, this time without interruption, she felt a renewed sense of freedom. The sidewalk was no longer a battleground. It was hers to run on without fear or constraint. In the months that followed, EJ remained with her SEAL unit, resuming training and preparing for future deployments. She never asked for special treatment or recognition, content to be judged solely by her abilities and dedication to service. Yet her story lingered in the public consciousness, a reminder that even those among America's best-trained warriors could face racial injustice at home. EJ chose to use her experiences to advocate for fairness and respect. Whenever asked, she would say, "Racism is a threat to our national unity. We can and must confront it with the same courage we use to confront any enemy abroad." And so, the journey of Ebony EJ Johnson, a courageous Navy SEAL, tested by an unthinkable act of racism, draws to a close. Justice prevailed, but the scars run deep. From the initial assault on a quiet San Diego street to the courtroom drama that sealed her attacker's fate, EJ's story reminds us that real patriotism isn't just about serving your country overseas. It's about defending the ideals of equality, respect, and justice right here at home. If this story moved you, sparked your anger, or reignited your hope, let it live on. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. Click that like button if you believe in standing against racism. And if you want more stories that inspire, challenge, and unite us, don't forget to subscribe to this channel. Your support helps build a community where every voice can be heard and every truth can be told. Thank you for watching.